Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk TriState with Tiny and Katie.
Welcome back to Let's Talk TriState, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice winner in the 2024 Best of the TriState Awards. Speaking of some of the best of the TriState, we have a return guest, and it was at our request that this gentleman join us again. Dean Hamburg, he is the owner of Allegany Driving School. Dean, welcome back to Let's Talk TriState.
Happy New Year. I'm glad to be here.
Same to you. So before we get started, let's kind of walk back a little bit. A little over a month ago, had you in here. We had such fun with you that I don't think any of us really expected that we would. You know, you would call into the Tiny and Katie show on our sister station WAYZ, so we knew that you were a fun person. We just didn't know that talking about driver's ed was going to be as entertaining as it was, and we said, Dean, you got to come back at some point in the new year, and here we are.
Yeah, well, you know, it just flowed so well that it went so quickly with all the stories that both of you had, and then me relating back to you, and we really didn't even get to discuss the nuts and bolts of it, exactly what driver ed looks like. So yeah. I'm very, very glad that you all invited me back.
Let's get into those nuts and bolts. So you are the owner and operator of Allegany Driving School, and have been for how long?
6 years now.
Okay. You've worked with him for a long time.
26 years, going on 27, and had the opportunity from Mr. Frazier to buy into that. Myself and my partner, I have a partner, Lionel Baker, who's based out of the Cumberland area.
Okay. And does he do anything out there with driving school, or just here?
Absolutely. Allegany Driving encompasses 4 counties, not just Washington, but also Frederick, Garrett, and Allegany County.
Okay.
So even though he's my partner, he runs those 2 locations in Western Maryland.
Gotcha. So the nuts and bolts of driver's ed. Now, when I went to Allegany Driving School years ago, and it was, I believe the classes were held at HCC. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, we had tons of satellite locations all over the county, and that is where driver ed in 2025 has completely changed. And matter of fact, it's completely changed since COVID. So what I mean by that is you're exactly right. You went to a location, you took 10 classes, 30 hours of class, and then you got scheduled with a driver at your county location, and you did the 6 hours of in-car. Since COVID, the platform of driver ed is still the same. However, instead of the satellite locations, say from all the county schools, Boonesboro, North, South, Smithburg, etc., it's all online based now via the Zoom platform.
And that's got to be simply from a business standpoint, from the economics of business, it's got to be a cost saving for you guys. You don't have to worry about paying for locations, satellite locations. It's the instructors can do it, I'm assuming, from their home office.
Yes, you're 100% right. We used to have to, rent a location, for example, Boonesboro High School or the Funkstown Fire Hall. So from a business standpoint and an overhead of money, it definitely helps the bottom line.
Sure.
But you're correct. The instructors are right in the comfort of their home, at their living room, their home office, and the kids are at home wherever they need to be. And again, it's all online. Now, being a teacher also for 31 years, I really truly think that teaching and learning on an online platform is not the best, but that's the way of the world, so we make it work. And
well, I think for the subject material that we're covering, I think it's, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that nothing will ever beat in-person teaching. But way of the world, this is where we are. But at the same time, I think as well, we're not talking about calculus, we're not talking about English. Now, obviously, driver's ed is very important, but I don't know that it's something that, I think this may be a good exception. If you're going to make an exception for online learning, maybe driver's ed is probably where you'd go.
100%. Like I say, I'm a physical education teacher, so when the pandemic hit and we're trying to teach phys ed online, it was very, very difficult. This here is probably the exception to the rule. The only thing that I don't like being an instructor is there's not much interaction as there would be, say, if we were face-to-face and I could come around. Kids are very talkative when you're around them. On the online platform, a lot of them don't speak up, so you can't get a real good conversation about what's going on in that particular unit. But
well, and you also don't know if they're just surfing the net while they're, sitting there acting like it.
100%. The MVA says, and we always say that you need to have your screen on at all times. Does that happen all the time? It doesn't. In a perfect world, we would love to have that, and we would love to have more participation. But again, it has really, the teachers and the students, I think, have adapted to it. And it's really actually worked well for all parties involved. It used to be years ago and we talked about this when you were here last time, the driver's ed was pretty much an included course in school. 100%. And now it is obviously, at least in Washington County, Maryland, and Maryland in general, I don't know, are there any counties in Maryland that still offer it as part of their curriculum? No, it's in the private sector, and like we did say the last time, you can take it as an elective in the West Virginia and Pennsylvania high schools. You don't have to, but again, I actually just this past weekend on Sunday, I finished up a Greencastle student, and the reason why number one, it's good to take, obviously, to learn.
Sure.
But number two is they get that certificate to present to their insurance company, and it gives them a significant discount on their insurance rates. But no, the other thing that helps my business as well is that in Maryland, you must take driver ed. You can't just say, well, okay, now I'm 16 or I'm 18, I'm going to go get my license. You must you must have that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So it's what they call a prerequisite.
Absolutely.
You have that. So what does the pricing structure look like for Allegany Driving School? I'm sure it is very competitive within that market, but are there, you're pretty much a one-stop shop for everything when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, there's not too many games in town in Washington County. You do have some options. It's right around $400. When you look at driver ed, and we look at that all the time down in the city, Montgomery County, Baltimore, it gets up to $600. And again, I'll be the first one to tell you, I took driver ed where you couldn't in school at Boonesboro High School, and it was free. Again, as you said and alluded to earlier, how important is driving? It's one of the top, 3 to 5 life skills that you need to do. And in an instant, something bad could happen if you don't know how to drive.
Right.
Again, that has changed, and probably went out of the public schools for a lot of reasons. Number one is money and a budget. So when you're talking about driver ed, you're talking about a vehicle, the insurance, gas, and an instructor. So it was quite pricey for public schools, and that's why they put it into the private sector.
Yep, absolutely. We're talking with Dean Hamburg. He's the owner of Allegany Driving School. So we've covered what it looks like the structure-wise. Now, I also saw on your website, you offer something called driver improvement. What is that, Dean?
Well, that's something that you don't want to ever take, because if you're taking driver improvement, it means that you have got a citation, you have a ticket, and if you're on your provisional license, they're going to make you take driver improvement, which again is on the online platform, and then you take a final exam. It's basically a big refresher of the 10 units of driver education. You definitely don't want to take that, because it means that you again committed a moving violation, and
we're talking points on your license, really.
Correct.
And sometimes it is pardon the pun, to the point where you're at a suspended license or provisional, as you said, or it may be that the court says, look, if these points go on your driver's license, you cannot drive. But if you do this within this amount of time, we will lessen the points. I mean, you know more about how that goes. What are some of those examples?
Yeah, well, let's just say that your son or daughter, I know you have a daughter, right? And later in life that she gets a speeding ticket, and you have two options. You either pay the ticket, and if you pay the ticket, you admit guilt, and your license, depending on what the violation was, is going to get what you said, points on it. But the other thing is you take driver improvement, you go to court, you plead your case, hoping that the judge, will lessen your fine. And the big thing is reduce the points, because again, if you get points on your license, I don't want to say that it doesn't mean anything, but the big thing is your insurance is going to go up. So you always want a clean driving record.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what about drug and alcohol classes? I'm assuming they're kind of related to the driver improvement, but there's obviously a delineation that makes a big difference.
Well, there's some people out there that get into some situations with that as well, and the court will require those types of folks to have a certificate completing that course in order to get their license reinstated or get their license back. So again, that's another service that we do offer. We try and hope that we don't get to see too many of those people, especially like driver improvement. I would say mostly driver improvement are those students or those drivers that are 16 to 20. And again, when we're talking about insurance, the reason for higher insurance for parents are because the 16 to 20, 24-year-old, more so males statistically, have more issues with getting, tickets, and
because the brain hasn't developed those areas.
Well, guys are guys too.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. Yep.
So
we like them fast, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we have to push our luck. So, what is it when it says new driver errors? I want to go over this. I shouldn't say what is it. I know exactly what it is. Last time you were here, you gave us an example of some of the things that you have seen and that your students have done. And I said, when you come back again, bring some of those stories that we just might not believe when it comes to driver's ed. So do you have one of those stories you can share with us?
Well, I have various, but it's just like which I'm gonna go on another course. The NFL playoffs are here, and they talk about rookie quarterbacks, especially on the road, don't fare very well. And Jaden Daniels of the Commanders have just done great.
Right.
But really, what happens, and the reason for that is just like with the new driver is. It's lack of experience. And again, in our driver education program, when you are finished our 30-hour classroom portion and you take the final exam, then you go out for 3 2-hour driving sessions. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that rely on us to make their student driver or child an expert driver. And I always say, we can show you the basics, and we will put you through our route plans or our lesson plans, but what can you be good at in 6 hours?
Right.
So that's why when, the new student, the new driver gets their learner permit, which is step 1 at 15 years and 9 months, they require you to do 60 hours, or you should do 60 hours of driving with a parent, guardian, driver, coach, not us per se, of 50 hours, 10 which is being at night as well. And just some folks just don't do that. I've had many calls, hey, Mr. Hamburg, Sarah just went through the program and she's not a very good driver. And again, if I came to work here and I knew nothing about the production or being on the radio, I probably wouldn't be very good the first 6 hours or the first 6 weeks. It's a learning experience. And the number one thing that I tell the parents and the students are drive, 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 drive. Your mom and dad, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, they already know how to drive. I personally let my kids drive from the time that they got their permit. They were my chauffeur, and all they did was practice, 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 so that when it came time for them to get their license, if I thought they were mature enough, they had no problem because they had a lot of experience. Some stories, and we told some good stories last time, but simple things as getting your left or right mixed up, okay? Another one, getting the gas and the brake mixed up.
Yes.
A very, very common situation. A lot of new drivers hug the right side of the road, and if you're on a country road that has no shoulder, it's more dangerous than the cars coming at you. So running off the side of the road, getting the radius of turning left or right. That's a tough thing for me to teach because it's all on feel.
Right. Yeah.
And then again, you get drivers that you think, man, they're really good. The biggest thing as being a driver ed teacher, you can't start resting on your laurels or thinking about this bill you have to pay or what you're going to do after work or what's going to be for dinner, because at any time they are still green, and they're not as experienced as everybody else.
You know, when I was learning to drive, I got my permit. My father had 2 rules. One, he said, you're going to learn to drive on a stick shift. That's number 1. He said, and number 2, your first time driving on the road, he said, you are going to be exposed to the most frightening thing that a person driving a stick can first experience. What he meant was being stopped on a hill.
Absolutely.
And that drift and trying to hit that clutch just right. So growing up in the south end of Hagerstown, we would go to the Cedar Lawn Cemetery. My dad would let me drive around in there. I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world. And it's amazing, the smallest things, you know, talking to parents now, the smallest things that you do, you think your kids don't remember. They remember, and they stick with them, as did for me. But then we would go over to South Hagerstown High School's parking lot on the weekends and just drive around and get the feel for the manual transmission. First time I drove right outside, those who know Hagerstown, especially the south end, when you leave South High and you're heading toward town, there's that little incline right there when you're at the intersection of Wilson Boulevard and Potomac. And that was the one where he was hoping we would get, and sure enough, we did.
Backed up a little bit
on the hill. And, buddy, when I tell you that I may not have shown it, but inside I was doing somersaults.
Right.
Because you don't want to, I've always said, like with the weather that we just had, you know, as we're recording this today, but as we're airing this yesterday, that when it comes to driving in snow, I'm not worried about me. I'm not worried about doing damage to me and my property. I'm worried about doing damage to someone else's property or to someone else. That's always my concern. And same thing with this is I wasn't necessarily worried about the truck. I was worried about hitting the person behind me.
Yeah, drifting back or then, you know, panicking and you stall the car and then people are beeping the horn, right?
Mm-hmm. And when that light turned green, my dad put his hand on my leg. He tapped me and he said, just take your time. And he did. And I did. And I was able to do it. And I'm not saying I haven't stalled since then.
Right.
But being exposed to that, to your point a few minutes ago, when the parent takes the children out.
Absolutely.
You are
huge.
You have 6 hours with them when you're doing the driving. Mm-hmm. Now I know that you know the high points. Okay, if you have a list of expose them to this.
Right.
Okay, I get that having gone through, especially Allegany driving school, you do hit those points. But there are those other real world scenarios that you don't know about them until they present themselves. That's where the 60 hours with the parent is so crucial. And I took full advantage. And my parents felt that it was their responsibility to expose me to those 60 hours.
100%. That's what being a parent and being a good, you know, parent involves. But, you know, when you say this, the 60 hours can't really compare you for what just happened yesterday either.
Right.
Think about a kid that took driver ed in the spring. Mm-hmm. Okay, they get their license. They go through the summer and the fall, and say they're at work at the Valley Mall, and they come out to the situation that was yesterday, and they've never ever driven in the snow. Again, being a public school teacher, there's a lot of flack when precipitation or a snow forecast is, you know, could happen.
Right.
And a lot of people complain that kids got a delay or they get out early. But you got to err on the, you know, the side of caution. And again, if these people have never driven in the snow, you know, it could be a treacherous situation. It really could be.
It's not, to your point, it's not just the school buses, although it's primarily the school buses. But you have to think about those older kids who are driving to school, who we need to make sure that they get home as safely as possible, so that you know, that's one of the factors, one of those tick boxes that you have to say, okay, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? To make the conclusion, we're not going to have school. Obviously, yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, so the kids didn't have to worry about that. But nonetheless, my goodness, Dean, I could talk to you for an hour or so. AlleganyDrivingSchool.us, ALLEGANY, AlleganyDrivingSchool.us. We've been talking with Dean Hamburg. He's the owner of Allegany Driving School. Dean, anything real quick in the last couple minutes that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on here?
No, everything that you said, our driver education program, our driver improvement program, whatever you need, we're a full service driving school. You can reach us at 301-766-0087. And I'll tell you what, I've had so much fun here. I missed my introduction from Katie today.
I know, right? Yeah.
But also for the new year, Anybody that uses calls in or registers and uses the code TriState,
okay,
we're going to do 10% off for that.
That's wonderful. There you go. Love that. So call in Allegany Driving School and tell them TriState, and they'll get you a nice discount of 10% off of the driving class. And they do top-notch work to where I went, and I am, luckily of my own fault, accident-free. And it doesn't mean I haven't been in accidents, because you always say it's not me you have to worry about, it's everyone else, right?
Correct.
Well, Dean, thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk Tri-State. We appreciate you.
All right.
We'll be right back with more Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by WellSpan, winner of the American Hospital Association's Quest for Quality Award, online, wellspan.org.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.
I'm Nick Seco from Home Right Windows and Doors, and we're located in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So we do vinyl replacement windows, we do steel and fiberglass entry doors, we do aluminum storm doors, and we do sliding patio doors, all made by Provia. The windows are a vinyl replacement window, and it could be anything from double hungs to casements to bay and bow windows and everything in between. So when somebody calls in the office and needs an estimate, they get Roxanne on the phone typically, and she would schedule an appointment for me to come out and take some measurements, provide some literature, go through what options we have, and then I would follow up within about 24 to 48 hours with an estimate with all the details of the products as well as the installed price. I find that we're typically much more affordable than the companies that you see advertising on TV or in a lot of other places. If they're spending a lot of advertising dollars, obviously they're passing those costs on to their consumers. You could go to our website at homerightwaynesboro.com, or you could call us at 717-749-4874.
Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katie.
Let's talk Tri-State.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State Awards. And right now we have from Cumberland Valley School of Music, Executive Director Heather McHenry. Heather, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
There are a lot of people who may not have heard of the Cumberland Valley School of Music. But before a few years ago, I was one of those folks. And I have no idea why I didn't know about this, because when I was growing up, I played saxophone. Not long, okay, mind you, but maybe it's because I didn't have the Cumberland Valley School of Music. So take us through the genesis of the School of Music and how we got to where we are today.
Fantastic. So we have a 35-year history here in the Cumberland Valley with bringing music instruction to everyone. It started with a couple of music teachers in the area who were teaching out of their living rooms and felt they wanted more of a community, a way for the teachers and the students to come together and create music for everyone. So they got together, they got a few other teachers who had the same vision, and the school was launched in 1990, and we're still going strong.
It's hard to believe that 35 years is 1990.
I know many of us think it's, it can't be that far.
That is just, this started out depressing. It's making me feel a heck of a lot older. So where is the physical location of Cumberland Valley School of Music?
The first and primary location that we have is on the Wilson College campus. We rent 2 floors of Thompson Hall from the college, but we also have multiple satellite locations throughout the area to make sure that everybody has a way to get to us and to experience music with us.
Music is obviously a wonderful expression of there may be some children or some people who are shy, and the music, playing an instrument is a great way to get that out. I did not have the shy problem when I was growing up, but I do love music, and I always wanted to play the piano and took a few piano lessons, and the teacher, I was more, I don't want to say this, I liked the teacher more than I liked learning, if that makes sense. I still learned, but when he left, and he was our director for our choir in church, when he left, my desire kind of just, waned off, because he was just this wonderful guy. And I'm sure you can understand that because of the teachers, instructors at Cumberland Valley School of Music. People who are musically inclined don't you find that they're far more approachable, open, eager? You probably know the adjectives that I'm looking for, don't you?
Absolutely. There's a creative aspect that is unlocked in your brain when you're doing anything in the arts, including music, which then bleeds over into every aspect of your life. It's just a different way of looking at the world. And you're right, many times they're just more approachable. They have different problem-solving skills because they've had to do that with music to figure out how to play it.
Yeah. Now, when I was growing up, we would always hear over the years about music programs in school being cut. And obviously, Cumberland Valley School of Music is not beholden to a public school system, but is that still something that is, I don't want to say threatened, but it's the only word I can think of right now, that is always kind of on the table every year? Is it still, because it seemed like it was always talked about, well, we're probably going to need to cut the music programs, or, there goes art, something like that. Is that still happening today?
It does. It rotates through different school districts in our area. So every couple years there is a school district where they're looking at their budgets and talking through. Many times we have parent groups who will step up and be very vocal about the importance of the program, and usually there's a way to come around that. We've had instances where perhaps a district did drop their music program for a year or two, where we have partnered then with the school district for us as Cumberland Valley School of Music to come in and provide music and help them get their program back.
Kind of bridge the gap.
Yes, so we don't come in as a permanent solution. We're just like, we realize the importance of this. While you figure out your budget, we're going to help you, and then we want you back on track. We see ourselves as a supplement to school music programs. We want to bolster them, but at the same time, we are providing resources for people perhaps who aren't in the school. So younger than kindergarten, older than 18, homeschool that come in to see us. We have all ages from newborn through senior citizens that come and participate in our programs.
Now, when it says School of Music, is that relegated only to instruments?
How so? Can you explain a little more?
For instance, we always hear your voice is an instrument.
Yes.
So is it also voice coaching, things of that nature?
Absolutely. So we say we have everything from accordion to xylophone. If we could get a zither teacher, we could get all the way to Z, but we don't have that yet.
Do you have a dulcimer?
We do teach dulcimer.
I love it. Okay,
it's amazing. So voice is included in that. We even have a teacher who does voice over for those who are looking at doing, radio spots and things like that with voiceover. So we do think about all the different ways of creating music or using your voice in different ways. And it never hurts to reach out to us and let us know what you're looking for. There was only one time we have not been able to connect someone to a teacher. I've received a phone call from a gentleman who found a rare instrument in a closet. It was a chromonica.
It's
I know similar. Harmonica. Yes, so harmonicas are in a specific key. So you get a harmonica in C, a harmonica in F. A chromonica can play all the keys. He found it, wanted to know if he could get lessons. We had nobody who had experience. But that's, again, very rare. Most other cases, you mentioned dulcimer. Yes, we have a teacher who can instruct you on dulcimer.
That's my teacher. The only reason I know what a dulcimer is I had a high school history teacher, Mr. Priest at South Hagerstown High School, who he brought in the dulcimer at one point and played it and sang some tunes. He sang stuff like they would sing in the Civil War. Those types of tunes. It was wonderful, and it was amazing when you there again. Music connects. How many times when I was a kid, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that something musical would be happening in the school. They would bring someone in who played this instrument, or we had a harmonica when I was growing up. Somebody came in and played that. And like, wow, that's so neat. And you're looking up at it, but he brought this dulcimer, and I'm like, what in the world is this? And it's a conversation starter. It's a connector. It bridges gaps, like you just said. Take us through some of the programs that you have that people may not know about. So I think there's the obvious things that are in people's minds, and I've pretty much touched on them right now. But what are the lesser knowns, but equally important?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, what most people think about with music instruction is individual lessons for elementary, middle school, high school age kids to come with their voice, with their flute, with their trumpet, and take their lessons. We have something down to newborns. So we provide music garden instruction, which is curriculums for newborns, toddlers, preschoolers, and their parents to come and make music.
How does that work? I'm very,
Sure.
very intrigued by that. First of all, I think it's amazing that you have it. I'm sure because you just bubble with it, and I'm so glad you do, and you have the passion for it. So take us through that for infants and toddlers.
Absolutely. So our class for infants and toddlers, the parent comes to class with the child. It could be a caregiver, grandparents, anybody can come along with them. And it's the idea of just experiencing music together. So we sing, we play, we dance, we use age-appropriate instruments, sticks, shakers, things like that. Yeah. And the idea is to just let the children be themselves and be musical and have fun. And as they get older, we start introducing musical concepts to them and start showing them what music looks like. And as they get into the elementary ages, then we can start introducing them to, okay, you've been learning these songs. This is how you play it on the piano. And it starts prepping them for then that constant, oh, now I want to play flute. Now I want to play the trumpet. And they can jump to that. We also have a thriving adult program where we have adults that can come and participate in an ensemble, an orchestra, a band, and play together with other people who have been playing, maybe returning because they haven't played since high school. They can take
almost
lessons
like
with them.
almost.
Yes, absolutely. Because there are many of us who go through our public education, play our instruments, and we leave and we think that's the end. And it isn't. You can still take lessons.
Or it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. You can take an ensemble. We are part of New Horizons International Music Association, and their task and what they want to do is make music accessible to senior citizens, those 50 and older. So we have a band, we have an orchestra that meets during the daytime for those who are 50 and older to come back to music, or if they've never done music, now's your turn.
Well, isn't there, I believe I saw before, there's some science to, as we age, music can help with memory and memory retention. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Our brains like routine and repetition. And unfortunately, routine and repetition makes our brain works a little slower at times. And so when you're participating in music, you're being introduced to new music. You're being introduced to new patterns and new ways of doing things. And so you're constantly getting your brain to make new connections and to keep functioning at a high level. Also, you're communicating with other people. So you're usually doing this in a group, which is wonderful. As you get older, sometimes you start feeling very isolated, but now you know every week you're going to go out and you're going to make music with these other people who are like you.
Does the Cumberland Valley School of Music offer, and because I know you said that you will sometimes be supplemental to public school systems or certain schools, do you travel into any, say, assisted living homes, retirement homes? Do you do any of those branching out type things?
We do, mostly though it's not instruction. We will take perhaps our New Horizons band and they will go perform at many of these places. And of course that's also a way to invite them to come be a part of that program if they want to play as well.
What is your website, and what does the application structure, or how does that work? Is it just come up and knock on the door and say, hey, here's what I want to do?
That's an excellent question. And technically, yes, you could walk into one of our locations. Our Greencastle and our Chambersburg locations have people there. So you could walk in and say hi and say, this is what I'm looking for and what I'd like to do. Our website, cvsmusic.org, so Cumberland Valley School of Music, cvsmusic.org, is a great place to kind of get started if you're not sure what you want to do. On there, you can click on and see our brochure. It will list all of the group instruction we have. So those toddler classes I talked about. We even have guitar classes, piano classes. So if you just want to try it and see if you like it.
Love to do that.
Exactly. And so it's low risk. You come in, you try a few sessions with other like-minded people. You find out, oh, wow, I really do like this. Let's continue. Or you go, oh, not quite the instrument I was looking for. Maybe I'll try a different instrument. But I like this concept. So you can find all of the group instruction on there. On our website, you can find the biographies of all of our faculty members. So if you know kind of what you're looking for, you can read through that. And we have a form on our website that if you're interested in lessons, so you want to be matched one-to-one with a teacher, you fill in this form, it gives us some basic information, and our registrar will contact you after she gets that information to start matching you with a teacher and a time and a day and get you ready to go.
You know it's a legit school when registrar is a position.
It is a position. Right? That's right. That is what she focuses on, is making sure our students and families are finding the best fit for their schedule and their life. Because sometimes we have families with multiple children. And if you can imagine your life, how many times you're trying to get one child to one
Bird and
place.
cats.
So she does this magical job of getting families a succinct schedule. So sometimes they are only coming once a week for an hour and 4 kids are taking lessons. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's how we really try to service that with having a registrar
Yeah.
and having her focus on that connection with our families.
So I have one final question, and then what I'll do is I'll turn it back to you and see if there's anything that you would like to cover that we didn't get to cover. Obviously, you're privately funded. Are there anything as far as fundraisers that you do throughout the year? I know sometimes, even though privately funded, a little extra help is needed.
Well, we are a nonprofit 501c3, and although there is tuition that is being charged, it only covers about 65% of our operating costs. We also want to keep the costs down. We want it affordable. We want people to come. We offer scholarships for those who are like, hey, this doesn't quite fit my budget. Can you help? Yes, we can help. So outright donations are always welcome. There's a link on our website you can go to give, and you can give a donation if you want to. Well, we do fundraisers.
Okay.
Coming up in February, we have our annual dinner, dance, and auction. This year, it's a little night music, a black and white ball.
Okay.
That one is more dress up. You get dinner, we have an auction, we have a live band, where there's dancing. It's a great time. We also do more low-key fundraisers. We have a St. Patrick's Day party at the Barrel House. So that one's just a Celtic band, Celtic dancers, Celtic food. Just come out and have a great time.
I think that's right up your alley, though.
Oh,
with,
yes.
With your name here.
Scotch-Irish name, yes. It's a great time. And so that's a little more laid back. It's the Friday evening before St. Patrick's Day, so that's on our website. You'll be able to check out information. And later this spring, we're doing a family-friendly event called Musical Miles. It's a fun run and walk. We're going to have like a preschool triathlon where they can ride their little tricycles, do an obstacle course, do a run. Everybody gets a medal. Food trucks, music, the whole works.
That sounds great. Well, before I let you go, was there anything that you wanted to cover about Cumberland Valley School of Music that we didn't get to today?
Absolutely. Just because we're a music school, there's no deadline to sign up for instruction. Anytime you want to start, check us out.
Perfect.
We can get you started any time of the year, any day of the week.
So it's always open enrollment.
Always open enrollment. You got it.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk TriState
Thank
today.
you for having me.
We've been talking with Heather McKendry. She is the Executive Director of Cumberland Valley School of Music here on Let's Talk TriState. All powered by WellSpan, winner of the American Hospital Association's Quest for Quality Award, online at wellspan.org.
Let's talk TriState.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk TriState, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.